Buenas noches, amigos televidentes. Nos encontramos ahora en nuestro segmento de la entrevista central. Vamos a estar conversando con la señora Linda Erickson. Ella es la vicepresidente de ventas del Centro de Convenciones de Washington, el más grande de esa región de los Estados Unidos, con una operación de aproximadamente unos 40,000 eventos en el año. Se podemos imaginarnos la importancia que este centro de convenciones tiene para esa región de los Estados Unidos. Linda, queremos saber primeramente cuál es la razón de su visita a Nicaragua. Cuéntenos un poquito. Linda, we would like to know what is the reason of your visit to Nicaragua first.
Absolutely. Buenos días, Lucy. First of all, I came to look at it as a potentially retirement haven for myself, living somewhere globally 6 months out of the year. So I was on a research project for that. And secondly, I wanted to find out about the status of the meetings and conventions industry in Nicaragua, from where you've been, where you are now, and where you're looking to for the future.
Definitivamente este ha sido uno de los temas de interés del turismo en Nicaragua, el tema de desarrollar acá el segmento de convenciones, congresos, eventos. No hemos podido todavía despegar, tenemos algunos pocos eventos, pero no hemos podido desarrollarlo todavía como un producto turístico específico. ¿Podría, Linda, comentarnos cuál es la importancia que este segmento de convenciones tiene en Washington? Linda, we would like to know what is the importance of this convention segment in the U.S., but particularly in Washington.
Yes. The convention center industry is a huge, huge impact on the economic development and financial well-being of the District of Columbia. For example, tourism, conventions as well as main tourism, constitutes $5 billion worth of revenue into the District of Columbia during the course of 1 year. That's astounding. It's also a major, major influence on jobs. For example, the federal government, as you well know, is located in Washington, D.C., the #1 employer. But tourism is the #2 employer. So you begin to see the impact that it has for the people in the community of Washington, D.C. also. So the convention center side, we will do anything from 20 people up to 42,000. That's the impact, the numbers of people that can fit into our building.
How many hotel rooms do you have in Washington, D.C.?
In Washington, D.C., we have 29,000 hotel rooms. But as many of you probably know geographically, Washington sits between Virginia and Maryland. And so collectively, we have hotel rooms for over 90,000 hotel rooms in that area. So let's say if we fill up 29,000, we can then expand over into what we call the DMV, District of Columbia, Maryland, Virginia, to fill that need.
Hemos estado conversando con Linda durante su estadía acá y la hemos estado llevando a conocer algunas de las facilidades que tenemos en Nicaragua para realizar eventos con la intención de ver si podemos impulsar conjuntamente el segmento de convenciones, reuniones acá en Nicaragua. Linda, ¿cuál ha sido cuál es su opinión sobre las facilidades que ha visto hasta el momento, porque sé que todavía falta visitar algunos lugares, pero hasta el momento, ¿cuál es su opinión para que Nicaragua pueda desarrollar ese segmento aquí? Linda, we would like to know so far what you have seen about Nicaragua and the facilities that you have visited so far in some of the hotels. Do you think Nicaragua is ready to start developing this convention segment of tourism?
So first of all, I've had the opportunity to get around the country a little bit. I started in Managua, was in San Juan del Sur, was up in Tola, saw the Macul Resort, then went on to Rancho Santana, Granada, and then back to Managua. So it's been a whirlwind week to be able to highlight some of those places. I think from the convention business, I think you're on the path. Yesterday on my site tours, I was impressed with the facilities that have your small convention center in conjunction with the hotel segment to it. One of the things I think I see as missing is a totally unified front of really coming together with having a one central contact to get the word out to those for the meetings perspective.
Se refiere al Bureau de Convenciones. Are you talking about the need to have a conventions bureau?
And let me tell you why. One of the main reasons is I'm sitting in Washington, D.C. Let's say I'm a meeting planner and I want to bring 1,500 people to Nicaragua for a meeting. Well, I don't know your country. I don't know all that Managua has to offer, let's say 4 facilities. So for me to even go online and start researching, calling all the hotels, doing that is a big project. I've got more than just this one meeting to plan. So what's valuable is a convention bureau, first of all, becomes your one-stop shop. I'll call my visitors and convention bureau in Nicaragua, and then they are positioned to do that legwork for me. They know all the hotels, they know all the meeting space requirements, they know how many hotels it's going to take for me to bring 1,500 people at one time. They'll know about the transportation, they'll know about off-site venues. It becomes the really, really vital part in making my job easier. And then secondly, oftentimes what happens is that you're going to know your destination better than anyone else. So when I have to then go and sell, let's say, my board of directors or my executive committee on a destination selection, I've got all that groundwork covered.
¿Podría comentarnos un poco cómo funciona el buró? ¿Se trata de una organización del sector privado o cómo funciona? I would like to know, how does it function, a conventions bureau, like for example in Washington? Is it a private sector organization or how does it work?
Sure. So every city in the United States has a little bit different model, but let me tell you what ours is. So the Events DC is the name of our marketing name of our entity, but we are the official Washington Convention and Sports Authority, which is the official sales and convention authority for Washington, D.C. So every time you check out of a hotel room in D.C., you're going to be paying a tax of 14.5%. Of that, 4.5% comes back to the convention center to fund our building. Our building is an $850 million asset that is recently appraised at about $1 billion. So when the construction of that building happened, when they were issuing the bonds back, the building opened in 2003. Prior to that, a structure of payment, of course, had to be in place in order to do that. So then also in Washington, D.C., the restaurant tax is 10%. We get 1% of that tax back to the convention center also.
And this is because of the importance conventions have for the city of Washington.
Absolutely. Convention centers are built to drive what we call economic impact to a region. As I said initially, that $5 billion, a lot of that is constituted because of bringing in people to a region. And the things we say is like putting heads in beds in hotel rooms, butts in seats in airlines, or we're filling up the restaurants, we're filling up the shopping centers. And the wonderful thing is people coming, especially for conventions, are on an expense account for the most part. And there's a lot of entertaining that's done. Perfect example, if a medical association is meeting in Washington, D.C., you're going to have a lot of pharmaceutical companies that are there wanting to access that marketplace. So within that, they will be doing a lot of entertaining. They will be hosting events. They will be doing seminars off-site. It really drives that for that region. So in the United States, convention centers are built. They are what we call like a loss leader. We necessarily don't operate at a profit, but what we do is we drive that development, that impact into a region. So it's vital.
El Buró de Convenciones está conformado fundamentalmente por las empresas turísticas que brindan servicios a los visitantes que llegan a las convenciones. I would like to know if the bureau, Convention Bureau, is formed with the tourism companies that provide services to the visitors.
So what happens in Washington is, of that tax, that 4.5% tax that we receive, a percentage of that goes back to the Bureau every month to fund their operation. So our Convention Bureau, which is called Destination DC, has its own CEO, board, and employees. There are probably about 72 employees now that constitute that staffing. So that's a major part. That totals probably about $13 million a year is where that funding comes from that bed tax. So the higher the amount of people that are staying in hotels in Washington, and it goes across the board, all those 29,000 hotel rooms, that 4.5% of that comes back to us. That's our major source of revenue. The second arm to that is it's a membership. Convention bureaus are membership-driven organizations. So in DC, there's about 850 members. So for example, the hotels would be members, restaurants would be members, tour operators would be members, car companies, transportation companies. They pay an annual membership fee to the bureau, which in turn becomes another revenue stream along with it. And then the third is there's also a sponsorship wing to it, in a combination of what we call both in-kind as well as cash sponsors. Obviously, when you're looking at doing site inspections to Nicaragua, you would need an airline partner. You would need either American or someone of that nature, local airline, to allocate X amount of seats per year so you can bring people in to look at it that way.
Finalmente, Linda, me gustaría saber si usted, como experta en el tema de convenciones, recomendaría a Nicaragua, recomendaría al sector privado de Nicaragua organizarse para desarrollar este segmento acá en nuestro país. I would like Linda to know if you, as an expert in this segment of conventions, would recommend to us, to Nicaragua, to the private sector, tourism private sector companies, to organize ourselves to start developing this particular segment in Nicaragua.
To start a convention bureau? Yes. I think it's vital. If Nicaragua is interested in expanding to the world stage, either really focusing on the United States or North America for the meetings and conventions, or globally, you have to have a convention bureau. It's how business is done. And by not having it, you're just not really playing on that field, that same playing field. Again, it becomes the one thing, the main thing a bureau can do is really access that marketing component. What is the message of Nicaragua right now? What is the message that you're sending out? A bureau becomes like the global storyteller for a country. Now, one of the things that I found out before I came is you have these amazing beaches here. That's one aspect. Now, that might not be the meetings and convention side initially, but it's a part of your story. That's going to still drive people to come to your country. So that's a key element to it. So that brand management is of utmost importance. So the question I think one needs to ask itself is, what is the brand of Nicaragua? What if I was in Austria right now, London, Tokyo, or Hong Kong, or Beijing? If someone said Nicaragua, what is the message? That's what a bureau does also. It becomes that chief marketing arm.
Thank you very much, Linda, for sharing with us your opinion and the importance of having a conventions bureau in Nicaragua. Muchas gracias, Linda, por compartir con nosotros su experiencia y también la importancia de tener un buró de convenciones acá en Nicaragua para poder impulsar realmente este segmento en nuestro país.